So the agenda for today, as every uLaw webinar has an agenda, is about branding and the branding experience that we deliver, that you would like to deliver to your end customers, okay? And the agenda highlights what is branding, what do you do when you go about deciding how you want to brand your legal firm, why and how you can be cognitive of the branding experience that you want to leave with your customers, especially about thinking the business of branding and how to think, breathe, and live that branding experience. And the last two components of today's presentation will talk about how can you use automation tools, such as the practice management tools that you have, to not only make that message consistent, but to automate that branding experience across all of your customer touch points. Okay? So there's going to be multiple touch points when your brand resonates with that end customer. The first phase, technically or ideally, would be when you're marketing to a prospective customer, when they get to know you the first time, and the brand, the logo, and the slogan associated resonates with that prospective customer. But after they have taken that leap of faith and engaged with you, it's even more important that you stay consistent with the message, with the character of the brand, even little things such as the logo, the colors that are involved. Keeping that consistent and professional is not only going to leave them with a good taste, but is most certainly going to motivate them to refer you to a friend or a colleague, because they were able to experience that branding right through the life cycle of their stay with you. Okay, so we're going to take some examples, some real-life examples of branding, understand a little bit about the science of branding, talk a little bit about legal or law firm branding, and then the last 15 to 20 minutes we'll shift focus in how we use uLaw as an example as a practice management tool that can help automate and deliver a consistent branding experience. Okay? So moving along, what is branding? Okay, so a brand experience is at the least the way your firm is represented. It's, really the definition we're looking to do is, does your brand or the brand experience I want to deliver to your customer adequately reflect who you are, your values, and most importantly, from a legal perspective, your competencies or competencies. So we've found law firms, depending on the areas of practice that you focus on, ranging from small claims to POA to family law to criminal law. There are various different areas of practice, and truly based on your character and the type of area of practice that you plan on focusing on, you may actually use the branding to reflect that. Okay? Now, with that brand experience, you want to be able to provide it such that your client experiences that brand right across them working with you. Okay, so it's not just about that first client intake experience. And so let's say your brand logo or slogan says that you work together for success. So let's say that's your law firm's logo. And then during the client intake, you are as collaborative as possible to get all the information that's necessary. But during the process of actually executing the file or working with your customer to make them successful, somewhere down that line, that logo's essence, or really reflecting who you are, your values are somewhere lost, then your customer is going to feel a little bit left out. So let's say that brand experience, that message of who you are, if that's not consistent, then that's going to leave a bad taste with your customer. You want to keep in mind when you define brand and when you define what that experience should be, that you're totally invested in making that experience consistent throughout the life cycle. Okay? So these are all the different components that you want to think about when you think about branding and how that's going to affect and reflect your firm. And last but not the least, when you think about branding, you want that brand to input confidence in the service excellence that you and your team are going to deliver. Okay. This is a constant thought process. So especially when someone comes to a law firm and legal firm, it's always a bit of a situation that's led them to come to you at the first place. So they are going to require that level of confidence that you can provide them, that you've got their back, and you are going to, put all the effort possible and be very genuine about how you're going to win that case for them. So it's equally more important that if you could have that particular value of your firm part of your branding experience itself. Okay. So as we move along, we kind of look at how global brands that we have come to know on a day-to-day basis have taken the essence of what branding experiences should look like. And we've taken some examples of some leading Canadian law firms and legal firms and the types of branding experience that they bring to the table. Now, when you look at branding, you want to keep in mind two important components that come to mind, the key highlights of the branding that make that a cohesive experience. The first one would be a logo. So every brand that, if you look at it, whether it's your legal firm or law firm, you want to come up with a company logo, which is really a visual cornerstone of the company's brand. So there's two main components of that brand, if you will. One would be a visual representation, which could be a logo or an image that represents your firm. And it's always nice to actually think about. It's not a mandatory thing, but it's always a great thing if you can associate a tagline or a slogan along with that company logo. And what does that leave the end experience with? So the branding experience that a tagline leaves with is an audible representation of that brand, of that company's brand. A very good example would be that of Nike. So we've all come and heard of this amazing apparel and huge retailer called Nike. And when they first started off, they had the swoosh or the tick symbol. So that was the company logo. That one tick symbol basically represented, everybody knew when they saw that was the Nike brand. They didn't really have to write Nike, but obviously these days we do see a combination of branding with the tick, with the words. But most importantly, they had a tagline that everybody would certainly resonate with, and that was just do it. Okay? So when you hear that word, when somebody talks about it, 9 times out of 10, you are going to resonate those words with the brand. Okay, so that's the power of adding an image with a slogan, so that's always going to leave an imprint or an impression whenever you come across that. Okay, so 2 key highlights of the branding experience when you start to develop that brand for your own firm. One would be the logo, and then another one is something that you can think about would be a tagline, a slogan that can, again, highlight that branding experience. So keeping those 2 factors in mind, let's have a look at some of the familiar logos, where the logo by itself kind of lets you understand the company and who you're going to be working with and what do they bring to the table. Okay, so you have your Volkswagen, so it's a very common logo that you've often come to hear about. And you have obviously the Apple symbol. Okay, so all of us who use any Apple product have come to know about that particular logo or brand recognition. IBM, one of the oldest companies, we're all familiar with the IBM brand, the IBM logo. Then you have your Pepsi and your Coke. These are all familiar logos that have, when they started off, was just a way of representing the company, but over a period of time, they obviously have grown to become this large conglomerate, right? One of the top 100 companies in the world. One of the more recent brand, if you're not familiar with the particular red symbol, is that of Tesla. Okay, so Tesla is the company that's revolutionizing both the automobile industry and now the housing market, right, with their energy efficient automobiles. And now Tesla is looking to get into your homes with energy efficient power and sunroofs. Okay, so so that's another brand or a logo that can resonate with the company and immediately give you the impact of what that company is about, the products and the values of those companies. Now, let's look at some familiar slogans that may be associated with the same brands, because some brands may have a slogan with their logo and some may not. So I wanted to obviously take Nike as an example that quickly came to my mind as a brand that I've known for a really long time. Just Do It was this very famous slogan of Nike. And then when you look at Apple, not many know, but their slogan is Think Different. Okay? And I don't think many of us know that Apple had a slogan to resonate with. And the importance and the point to note was the Think Different tagline was associated with that Apple symbol for the longest time till they became a household name. Now, till that Apple symbol, they changed their logo from this to just the Apple. This was their logo, and they needed that tagline to prove a point. And they needed that tagline to tell other vendors and other customers that they thought differently, let's say compared to Microsoft, who was their direct competitor. So through that word, through that slogan of thinking different, they wanted to convey a certain message and a certain brand recognition to their end customers. And then we obviously know about Bounty, the quicker picker upper. You've seen that in ads, you've seen that on television, you've also heard that on the radio, and that's how they're resonating with their end audience. Okay? And through that slogan, obviously they also resonate the fact that it's a quicker picker upper, meaning you could pick up dirt faster with a Bounty sheet compared to, let's say, a competitor sheet. Okay, so I want to think of the slogans as a way of also getting across your culture and who you are and your differentiating factors. We've all heard of MasterCard, one of the best slogans that I've heard in a really long time. There are some things money can't buy, but for everything else, there's MasterCard. I'm sure you've heard of that. And last but not the least, our very old and much loved McDonald's. And I'm loving it. It's really their tagline. Right? So I wanted to, again, get across the point that a brand experience is a really good combination. When it comes together, it's a great combination of a logo or a company image or brand image with a picture, combining it with a slogan that gives you the opportunity to help your customers understand as to who you are, what is that your firm does, and how is it different compared to, let's say, a competitor. That's the opportunity to utilize. Now, I took the top three law firms, and we could add more, but I just wanted to start with maybe the top three. You have your Gordon Leonard, DLG, the Gowlings of the world, and the Proskins of the world. Now, I'm shifting gears slightly from, let's say, a household brand to a slightly more specific legal law firm brand. And some of the common components that I see of the company logo or the image or picture is where you actually have initials. That's a really common theme because it's multiple partners who are involved. A common theme now is the ability to put your team's photograph alongside your brand or your company's name, showcasing obviously the strength of your firm, which in many cases may be really important, And even when you look at advertisements and the diamonds of the world, you're going to notice they all have a tagline, but they also ensure as part of that image, they bring their team's unity and the different services that they can offer the strength. Okay? So now let's look at a few taglines that caught our eye and seemed very interesting as some food for thought. And we're not going to share what these firm names are or company names are, but you obviously can find them on Google. The one reason we did not highlight Google is the word itself is a brand, and the word itself has almost become a part of the English dictionary. So that's the extent to which they've grown, that it's almost a verb. It's not a brand anymore. You know, anytime you want to search for anything, you've almost replaced the word search with Google, right? Some interesting law firm or legal firm slogans: power of collaboration, counsel to market leaders, a personal injury law firm. You know, keeping it really simple, to the point. You know, it could be the firm name with an image, with the tagline just being a personal injury law firm. It gets the point across really fast. They know exactly who you are as a law firm and the area of practice that you specialize in. And if that's the only thing that they practice on, then they've got that tagline bang on. Legal insight, business instinct. When you read that, you may want to maybe make the assumption that they are a law firm that works with corporations and businesses. Practical wisdom and trusted advice. Again, instilling that confidence to the end audience about that firm's value, and the value is providing practical wisdom and trusted advice, because that's one of the fundamental reasons why we approach a law firm or a legal firm, to have that trusted advice. A fantastic tagline for an intellectual property law firm would be, "You've got ideas, we protect them." Okay, with the advent of technology, with software companies at the rate of the millions of software companies that are out there, intellectual property and protecting that has become a big business for law firms. And one such law firm has a slogan which says, "If you've got ideas, we protect them." From a paralegal perspective, there was one tagline that stood out, which was "Paralegal, the real power of attorney." Again, it is left to you that you're a business owner. When you talk about brand and this is your company, you want to be confident about the service that you're offering, but also be confident that you can deliver that service with the highest levels of satisfaction and professionalism. Okay, so obviously this is a very strong slogan and a statement, and that paralegal firm obviously is very confident about the services and what they bring to the table. Working hard for you, we work for you, and these are some of the other examples that we were able to look at. We want to just highlight a few of them here. Take a pause, obviously combining it with what we've learned between the brand logos and the brand slogans. You want to combine what you've learned from that, and as you create your own brand experience, keep in mind these two critical components that go towards building that brand experience. Now, having reviewed those slides, let's take a moment to again understand why this brand experience is important. Okay? Now, a brand cognitively plays a huge role in motivating a client to retain you in the first place. So I've taken some legal lingo here, but we go back to someone looks at your board, whether it's a sign, cornerstone sign, or if it's on the web, regardless, if that brand can resonate confidence, and if it can motivate an individual who's looking for legal advice to approach you, then nothing better than taking that extra time to come up with a compelling brand experience theme, right? And not only should they look at that brand and think of coming to you the first time, they should hopefully come back to you for multiple engagements. And even better is if they can refer you, if that brand recognition can instill that confidence first off. And obviously you're not going to get it the first time. One important thing to note within brand is many of these brands that we looked at, even the large companies, have changed their brand ever so often. Okay, the one brand that I've not seen change as much would be Coca-Cola, but even they went from Coke to Coca-Cola and so on and so forth. And Nike is a great example. They did just have that tick symbol, but then they changed it with the Nike being written on it. So the one good thing about that is you are in control of what that is, but you want to ensure that there's some sanity, that you're not changing your brand experience almost every month. Okay. So why is it important, especially in today's age and time, to come up with that perfect brand experience? Is because you are now going to use that brand experience, whether it's your logo or your website, you're going to use that and make that available in the digital marketplace. Okay? Now, once you've generated certain interest, once you've had the exposure that you need for your brand across multiple digital marketplaces and websites, it's going to be a lot harder for you to go and change that everywhere. If they're just referring it to your website, that's fantastic. But if you've actually got your logo on a website and you're changing it, you want to be cognizant that when you do change the brand experience, you're cognizant of going and ensuring that is reflected in each of those digital touch points. Okay? Social branding and business branding should periodically be revisited and optimized. So that's the point I was looking to drive. Again, always resonating with your values and what the law firm is looking to establish. Now, the social media, the digital marketplace, and the various formats of marketing your service has one single purpose, is to bring that customer to you so that you can attract those prospective customers who have never experienced your service before to come to you. And once they've obviously come in and they enjoy working with you, it is equally important, as I mentioned earlier on, that they've seen the same consistent experience across the client execution or the file execution from soup to nuts. It's not just important that you bring them in with a red carpet, and after they actually got into the office, you've shut the door and you basically let them feel helpless. So it's really important that you continue with the brand experience, the values, and also the professionalism that you need to carry right across the client's cycle working with you. And that's why we're going to shift the focus a little bit more into how practice management software actually can help you automate as well as deliver that consistent brand experience. Okay? So we talk about a lot of customer-facing documents. Now, there are documents that a prospective customer is going to have, like a client intake form on your website, but he or she is not going to have a retainer letter, or he or she is not going to actually have a payment receipt. Okay? But it's only when a customer signs that retainer and agrees to retain you, becomes an actual customer. But then there are a lot of documents that you provide that customer through your law firm. Okay, so some examples are retainer letters, invoices, receipts, whether that's a trust receipt or a general receipt. Okay, all these need to be branded. You want to keep in mind that's the level of professionalism that you can provide your customer base. And the brand presents a consistent experience, as I mentioned, of both the logo and your message. And I think we've reiterated this many times, but the message needs to contain relevant information that your client can use when he thinks of you or refers to you to someone else. And our biggest example from even the last time was that of Starbucks. Okay, so we'll talk about how Starbucks, as a final example before we go into practice management, took that brand experience both outside the store and inside the store, keeping that really consistent. And why do practice management tools become important in providing that experience? Because they're the tools And they provide the automation to upload, let's say, that one logo that you have, that you built. You've used a designer to come up with this perfect logo, and it's available. Instead of you having to copy paste it in every document possible that you're going to put in, have the practice management software automated by putting it in one place and having it available seamlessly without a worry across all of the customer-facing documents. That's a simple example, okay? And once you've defined it, once you've got that logo and brand experience going, ensure that you have that digitally available across social media, print, and on your website. So there's a consistent message. And when your customer refers you to another prospective customer, and when they go check your referral or your website or talk to someone, they all have that same message to leave. Okay? So bottom line, referral being one of the largest lead generation for legal firms, word of mouth referrals, client referrals being one of the largest lead source, knowing that a great brand experience translates to greater referrals, it's that much more important for law firms and legal firms to focus and get that right. So obviously we've all seen the beautiful mermaid, the green mermaid, and the constant brand experience is that of that mermaid and a simple logo and tagline, right? Not only do you see this outside the store in all of the areas that they market Starbucks, but obviously you see it right within the store, right from their cup colors, and there's a bit of a color branding, everything is kind of green, even to the store, which is kind of painted to resonate, come on the same experience. So before I move into actually demonstrating how you can automate some of these business documents and what are those customer-facing documents that you need to keep in mind, let's continue to let people in. Let's quickly revisit how you can automate those businesses. Office branding, that's another key component. So be it your labels, the envelopes that you generate, let's keep in mind all of those documents are a great candidate for having a very similar, consistent brand experience, okay? And why do we do it? To improve interactions and the overall experience of your client. And that's the bottom line. And those are the two critical components why you actually do a brand experience. Now let's take an example or a few examples of branded documents that you may come across in your legal office. And this is something that I'm relating to after the fact. Okay, so maybe the client intake form is something that could have that prospective customer's first experience of your brand, but then when he or she becomes your customer, these are some of the common documents that you may actually deliver as part of a touch point, if not all, during that brand experience of working with your law firm. So let's start with the simple ones. Invoices. Obviously, you want to brand that invoice, even if it's your colors, even if you don't have a logo, it's your colors, your tagline, or one or the other. It's important that you have an invoice that's branded, so that they know where it's coming from, who you are, and it's an easy way to resonate with the company. Now, the office letters, we're talking about cover letters, faxes. Even when you're printing envelopes, you have the opportunity to have your brand very much there, right? Even when they receive this mail, which is decreasing as we speak, but there's still mail being used in the legal state. Branding envelopes is a great thing, and labels as well. Then let's take a quick laundry list of all of the other documents that you potentially can have part of that brand experience. Your business letters, client intake form, we spoke about that. Very important, the retainer letter. That's one of the first starting point official documents that you actually sign on. you and your customer sign off on, right? So a retainer letter is a great example of a document that you can make that brand experience available. Statement of activity. So as you continue to go down that matter and start to document and start to disperse your client, if your client were to quickly ask you for a quick statement of everything that you've done over a period of time, that's a document that you would generate, statement of activity. Again, a great example of how you can brand it. The receipts. So we spoke about, again, a retainer receipt, if you are into the trust world, payment receipt, if that's just for a general payment. Legal aid invoices. So if you're into providing legal aid for some of the legal aid invoices, you do have the opportunity to then brand it. So when you actually do a legal aid invoice, obviously it talks about some of the good Samaritanship that you have as a law firm, and then combining it with that slogan, and if that can resonate the same thing, that is a very powerful and an impactful brand experience. Some of the retail or real estate lawyer friends who often have account statements to generate, that's another great example where you could brand those letters. And we have the settlement statements and bill of costs. Just some examples that I'm reading out, but want to ensure that it leaves an impression in your mind that the branding does not end with just marketing the company. It continues even after you've acquired that customer as you take them through your service SLAs. And for those who don't know who we are, we're a very proud Canadian legal accounting and practice management software company based in Ottawa. And we do highly encourage you to visit our website. We do offer a 30-day trial. Check us out with 30-day no obligation trial. So now I'm going to shift gears as we spoke about all those business documents and how a practice management software can actually help you automate that so that it's consistent without any human error. I'm going to now shift gears and jump into my uLaw. And even with uLaw, if you have actually look at the brand, it's a consistent black, red, and white combination, be it on our website, be it our logo, or be it even our tagline. So the first thing you want to look at are the different documents that you can basically generate. Now, before I even move forward with generating those documents, let me show you how you could quickly upload that brand once you've created that logo with or without the slogan, how you actually bring that into the practice management. So to do that, I would go into my help, click on my personalized logo, as the name sounds. I do have a certain logo and banner right now, so I want to get and start afresh. So let me go ahead and delete that logo and banner to show you what these documents look like without that logo. Okay, so let me just go ahead and delete it. There you go, that's done. Now let's take a look at some of the documents. The first thing I probably do is let me choose a matter to show you some of the matter-based documents. I'm going to use a random matter that I have in my Playground account. So let's look at invoices John. You can see there are quite a few invoices that have been generated for this matter. I'm going to look at a statement of activity to begin with. Okay, so I'll give it a date range. I'm actually doing it for the complete matter. So this is one of the documents that we spoke about. Now you're still able to generate these documents. Don't get me wrong, because the actual content of these documents still remain to be the same. Okay? But what's important to note is that there's no brand experience on this document. Okay? It's a simple black and white document, right? There's really no much of a brand experience. Obviously, it has your information on it, and that's all there is. But it would actually be significantly better and more professional and would utilize the opportunity to kind of squeeze in that brand experience, if you will, at every touch point documentation if you were able to consistently bring the logos into it, right? So none of this changes, really. This is all real data that your customer needs anyways. But let's now look at how this particular document can be branded. And that goes for any document. So let's say I'm generating a retainer letter, whether it's PDF or MS Word, it really doesn't matter. There you go. A very simple but really blank. It's not branded at all, right? Totally unbranded document, but it still has all the information on it. Now let's take a look at, I do have a test logo that I just generated just before the webinar, and I'm going to showcase to you how that's done. When you hit personalized logo, we actually give you the opportunity to have both a logo as well as a banner. Okay? A banner is, again, something some of the companies have that shows up right on the top. But to just keep things simple, I'm just going to look at how a logo can go a long way in creating that experience. So to do that, I'm just going to quickly choose a logo. I'm going to say uLaw logo. And let me quickly choose uLaw template banner. Those are two files that I've created. In fact, as part of our service within uLaw, we actually help provide the logo and the banner for all our clients at no extra cost. If you actually have a logo designed by a web designer, you send it to us, we redesign it so that it rightly fits with the uLaw, and we send it back to you. So I'm just going to upload those two image files, and that's all they are. They're image files. And now let's take a look at the statement of activity. Kind of compare it. Again, this is a very simple example of the logo that I've used, which is really the big difference. And all I used was my logo, the uLaw, manage what matters anywhere, and that's our slogan. But something as simple as that. Now, it's really easy to combine the logo with your information. I've just decided not to do so. So if your logo actually has the official address of your law firm, even better, because you can make that available, or you can make that available on the banner. Okay? Because sometimes the address can be very much almost a visiting card, if you will, in all of these documents. And you can get as innovative as you like by using a banner right at the top that not only includes your banner, your colors, your slogans, but can also include your website, okay, a phone number, and an address, a physical address for your firm. Okay, so this is a very simple example. Now let's look at some of the other examples that we highlighted. Another example would be the retainer letter. Let's generate almost the same document. There you go. From the office of whatever that logo has to be right there. But you can notice, obviously, it's taken one simple brand experience across all of the documents. It's the same consistent logo, so you're not changing colors. There's no human error in changing a different logo. And if your logo changes, it's just one place to upload. Let's go ahead and generate an invoice for this matter. And let's look at the pre-bill. There you go. There's my logo. Even within the office letters that we spoke about, right? So let's say for Mr. Abbey, we're going to go ahead and generate, let's say, an envelope. So I'm looking at let me look at a deal. I want to include my name, my company name, my logo. So right here, you have the opportunity to personalize even an envelope as you generate it for your client. So this is something that you would print off on your printer. Actually has your logo and your brand experience typed within the envelope. Okay. And for some of the additional examples that we looked at, one really good example would be the invoice. Go ahead and generate that invoice. And when you email this or mail this to your customer, and when they receive it, they obviously know right away that it's from your law firm. And if they're, let's say, going to share it with a friend or a colleague, I doubt it if they would, but even if they did, they're obviously going to have that experience right across the document. Okay? For some other examples, so we looked at some invoice, statement of activities, retainer, letter, even receipts. So if the individual has actually paid it, you can go ahead and apply that payment of $587.60, even if that is $588. There's multiple matters here. I'm going to go ahead and make that $587.60. Now let's generate a receipt for that individual. Okay. We've got a check. So as you continue down the path of your practice management to do what it takes to get the job done, by automating and ensuring that brand experience is consistent, that's one less worry for you as you generate these documents, because the practice management software pretty much handles that. Okay? And as much as I say, it's important, and again, regardless of any practice management software, the concept and the ability to bring in that logo into that software pretty much is the same, whether it's uLaw or something else. Okay? But please keep in mind that it's equally important to brand all these documents as you generate them, as your customer goes through the experience. It's equally important to however important it is to market your brand to prospective customers. There's two different siloed markets. There are two different siloed software solutions. One is where you're marketing your brand through social media, digital marketing, email marketing, as well as through your website. And the other is where you're using a practice management software to consistently provide that same brand experience once that prospect has become your customer. Okay, so let's look at that receipt. And you're going to notice it's pretty much the same thing. It's a different document, but it's the same experience. Whether it's an invoice, a receipt, envelope, a pre-bill, a retainer document, or a statement of activity. And this is a very naive example. Obviously, you can be very innovative in how you design the logos. You could go to Fiverr.com, and there are people who can provide wonderful designs to you at a very cost-effective rate. And in conclusion, if I were to look at some of the additional letters, you have your master letterhead. Business letters. Regardless of whether it's a PDF, Word document, or even sometimes even an Excel sheet, because you can actually generate a lot of documents in Excel format in uLaw as well. Okay, so there you go, from the Law Office of uLaw. There you go. We'll look at legal aid. So as you continue using the practice management software, it almost becomes behind-the-scene automation for all of those documents. And I think that's one of the important aspects, or second point of my overall presentation, is to talk about how that's made happen. So the first thing is, why is branding important? And the second thing really is, how can a practice management software make that branding experience automated and consistent. Okay, so at this time it's about 3:52, and I would like to open the floor for any Q&A. I know we had a few questions to answer as we started the presentation, so I'll probably take those questions first, and then I kindly request you to ask any questions that you may have. But just touching upon the key agenda items that we want to cover today. What is branding? Okay, let me just bring this up in full screen. So the overall concept of the webinar was to talk about branding your law firm. And the key components of what we look to cover are what is branding, why is it important that it's cognitive, and it's important for you to not only provide it to your prospective customers, but also deliver it across their existing customers through their experience. What are the critical components of a brand? So we spoke about how a logo as well as a tagline becomes critical components of that overall brand experience and overall brand. We looked at how do you automate, how does business automation tie in to brand experience? And last but not the least, we looked at benefits of a practice management software such as uLaw and how it can combine the consistency and the automation of that brand experience. Okay, so I highly encourage you to, we are going to be recording, this is an important question. We are recording this particular session, and it's going to be available to you, and we're going to email it to you as well. And thank you once again for joining us, and I kindly request you to contribute through a Q&A session and ask us any questions that you may have. I think I've answered the first question, whether this would be available to you in a recorded format. Yes, it will be available to you, and we will be sending you an email, hopefully by end of day tomorrow or first thing on Monday. And this will be available to you also as part of our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/uLawPractice. Okay, our next question is, how do you market your brand? That's a really interesting question. It is $1 million question. I guess if there was a magic recipe, we would all know exactly what to do. But we are looking to cover that as part of a separate webinar, because we have to provide the due diligence time that topic requires. It's going to be a topic we'll be covering in a few weeks, where we talk about some common examples and what we're seeing as a trend of how you can market your brand experience. Today's topic was really to cover how to come up with a brand that will resonate with your customer base. In a few weeks, bear with us, and we'll get back to you with a webinar that highlights how you can market it. But if I were to give you my 2 cents, just a very high level of what we're seeing, obviously referral becomes a significant lead source. But let's say you don't have that first customer yet, then you obviously want to participate in shows. You want to have your visiting card available across multiple touch points where people come across. You could have a banner, social media marketing, be it on Facebook, be it on LinkedIn. Those are 2 common areas where we see a lot of legal professionals marketing their services. And if money permits, obviously you could do the more lavish television ads and the old school radio. Okay, the question is, where do I go about to create my website as well as my brand? One website that I suggested was Fiverr, and that's Fiverr, and I can send that to you via chat. This is a website that we use at uLaw as well to actually have a bit of a crowdsourcing done in terms of any work that needs to get accomplished. And there are a lot of designers that can actually help you with the overall design of your logo. But the tagline is something that you may want to come up with yourself, because that's more personal, and that's really who you are and what your law firm represents. So that's not something that you go to another person, in my personal opinion, but the logo is something that you can always get help from. We do request that if you can kindly fill out the form that we've submitted on the chat window. It's just a quick survey of the webinar and any additional topics that you would like us to cover. And we sincerely thank you for that. So there's a question about what areas of practice that uLaw relate to. uLawPractice is actually a legal accounting and a practice management software, regardless of the area of practice that you focus on. I mean, we are a legal accounting software to begin with, where we've combined business accounting and practice management to keep it seamless for legal professionals to be law society compliant, but also at the same time have fun while using their practice management software. So to answer your question, regardless of the area of practice, you can see some of the examples here, right from family law to tax to employment, POA, HTA. And we have a range of users, right from legal professionals from small claims to criminal law, and the other way around. So real estate, we have lawyers who use this for real estate law and IP as well. Okay, there's a quick last call, maybe 5 more minutes. I'll take a few more questions. How did I go about uploading my logo and the banner? Sure, I could showcase that to you one more time. So in uLaw, you'd go to Help, just right at the top right corner, and we looked at Personalized Logo, and this is where you would actually choose a logo and a banner. And traditionally, this is something that we help our customers with as a free service. If you actually have that first logo that you've built using a designer, or let's say by yourself, we kindly request you to send it to us. We can ensure that it's tweaked to fit in within the documentation, and we resend that file, and you then choose that file. You store it locally, and then you kind of choose that file and then upload it. Okay. So once you've put in both those, you can upload it. And that's all there is. Okay, maybe a last question for the day. What are the different documents that can be branded and cannot be branded? That's actually a good question. I think we made a list of all the some examples of documents that can be branded. Let's take a look at that real quick. So we looked at invoice, office letters, business letters. So this is, and you will have this as part of our recorded webinar today. And these are just some of the examples of the branded documents. But a good thumb rule would be any customer-facing document, you obviously have the opportunity and the liberty to brand it because it's actually coming from your legal firm or law firm, right? It's a document that's coming from you to your customer. So right from an invoice to account statements, you could pretty much any customer-facing document, which is really where you want to drive the market. That's what you want to do. But let's say you have really accounting-related documents. So let's say there's a trust ledger. So any law society-related documents that you are required to submit, obviously it would not be a great idea to brand those. So a quick example would be your trust ledgers. All of your ledgers, all of the compliance documents that the law society asks for, right off the bat, that's something I can think about. So I mean, we pretty much have every possible law society document that's required by the form by Law 9. So let's take a quick example. Though I have my logo of uLaw right within my practice management when I actually generate my monthly trust, we know that it's one document that you don't want to brand. So yeah, this would be a good example, a starting point of documents that you probably don't want to brand, or shouldn't brand, in fact. So here's your monthly trust ledger, and this you would notice you just have pretty much a blank. This would not have your personalization or branding on it. This is by the books, the way that it's expected, by client. Because the bottom line here is that the Law Society auditors are actually looking for the consistency of the numbers and the particulars of the information. They're not really bothered about the branding here. So it really depends on the audience of that end document. I would say any customer-facing document, brand it. If it's compliant and otherwise, avoid branding. Okay, so with that, I would wrap up this webinar. I thank you very much for joining us today. I hope this was an informational session, and we continue to invest in the Legal Society to provide these informational webinars, and we kindly request you to participate in that and provide us your feedback so that we can make this a little bit more interesting for everyone involved. Thank you very much, and have yourself a great week. Take care.